All righty. Okay. I want to make sure we are set. Yeah, we are live.
Yeah. I see it on yours.
Okay. Oh, I don't think it's public. Here we go. Let me change this. There we go.
Okay.
All righty. There we
Got
go.
Yep, it's on mine too.
Okay, awesome. 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 I'm going to share this in a couple of places. Good evening. And for those that are watching now, it would be my absolute honor if you would share this and tag other amazing women and people that you know would greatly benefit from this conversation as we discuss the journey of miscarriages and stillbirth. We're talking, this is the month of May, and we're still talking about motherhood, but we're going to dive deep into conversations that many of us have went through or going through, and we've made it so taboo. And the purpose of this conversation, I pray it is a beautiful start to normalize the motherhood is not the same road for everyone, and it's not the bed of roses that we can often highlight it to be. While it is grand and while it is great for women that are called to this experience, there is also another side to this journey. So again, please tag and share and like and engage with us and the beautiful, amazing Miss Rebecca that is with us on today. You all are going to be in for I get to do the easy part. I get to just have great conversations with amazing women, with amazing leaders, with amazing people. And especially when you can easily connect with someone on site. And so that's the story and if you know Rebecca, then that's probably your story too. So again, it would be great. Please like, love, share, tag, all of that. If I mean anything to you, I'm laying it on real thick right now, right? If I have mean anything to you, if I have helped you along this way, if I have smiled at you, if I just walked past you, right? Please share. And that is my ask. Please share. Okay, I am going to share in some spaces again while I'm talking because I just realized I had the share button going and did not share. So let's do that right now.
I'm going to put it on our impact page.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I can do that.
And I would like to, the names that I can see, I'm trying to get better at this. Let's see, Miss Yvette, Misty Shannon, Rebecca. Oh, I think you shared it because I see a little share button. Thank you. Miss Latoya, Aunt Deborah, hi, Miss Tarsha. Oh, I did real thick, didn't I, hon? I did. I laid it on. So I'm asking you, go ahead, y'all, please share and our tag. Because I recognize that sometimes you want certain content on your page, and I can respect that. So if you would tag 3 women in this post, that would be great too. You know, I am not one that's hard to please. Well, it's a Sunday, Lord. I'm not. I probably am just a little bit, but I
A
had to
lot
get my.
going on today.
I know it is. Oh my word! And y'all, we are both celebrating our baby's birthdays. Tori,
Yeah.
the big 10. I'm sorry, the big 13. I'm switching our dates. I'm switching the ages.
I'm kid.
Oh my word. Yes. And then Miss Rebecca, your son is 10
10.
today.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot going on. So you all, again, the journey of motherhood. We have went from church to celebration to
Yep.
this, and then we're both heading out and doing something again with our babies after this. It's yeah. So
Busy.
it is. Thank you for sharing. And again, thank you for joining us on today. I do not know how to share to this one space. I don't think I know how to do it well from my phone, but we're going to see. And then we're going to go ahead and get started. I just wanted to have some fillers as we were starting on tonight. So again, I am grateful for this space and to be able to hold this space to have conversations and conversations again with people who um, are unapologetic in the work that they do. And if you have been following Courageous Conversations, then you know I took a hiatus. I took a Shanquetta hiatus, not a God hiatus. But in that time, I thank God for the grace that He said, you need to come on back this way. And that I am called to this conversation, to these conversations that speak about things that we were having privately and that we have for too far too often just swept under the rug. And so May, I've been allowed to rebirth courageous conversations for actions, shining light, making a difference, and building bridges. Because for the purpose is to have those tough conversations, whether we're talking about race, or we're talking about parenthood, education, rural versus urban, whatever that is. I definitely believe in the power of agreement and reconciliation. I just believe that there is always a solution to every problem, but how can we do that unless we address it? And the month of May, where we talk about motherhood on the other side. I'm so grateful for our past guests. If you did not catch that conversation 2 weeks ago that I shared with Natasha Davis, um, Cherise Smith, and Miss Erica Shoemate on the journey of motherhood and mothering a special child with special needs. It was a beautiful conversation of how these warrior mothers are every day raising amazing children, defying the odds. And then on today, we get to have this conversation that is a personal conversation to my heart. And I am just so happy that Rebecca has decided to have this conversation with me. And we're going to talk about miscarriages, losing babies before we even see them. And then on the other side of carrying children and seeing them, but then they do not go home with you. And asking that question that I had to ask myself even for years, am I still a mother? And so to start that, I would like to just share with you briefly um, how this conversation even came about. Talking to Rebecca about her event that she does every year, in which I will let her share about the work that she does. And I recognized that in October 2014, I was at the homecoming event of my sorority. And then I had three children, three girls, uh, and 10 weeks pregnant. But no one knew except my husband and my best friend and my mother. I did tell my mother. And then I was feeling good. Actually, I was strutting. And if you all don't know that, because I know we're having a mixed audience now, uh, if you don't know what that is, it's just us strolling to music in our sorority fashion and stuff. And then I just went to the restroom, wasn't feeling bad at all, and just went to the restroom. Um, but while I was in the restroom, just felt different that time and just felt this big lump come out of me. No, nothing that warned it or precipitated that experience. And I called my best friend, who is a nurse, um, into the restroom, and she looked in the toilet, and then she told me, she said, "You need to go to the hospital." And I was cool, calm, and collected. But she was like, "You need to go now." And then I went, and that's when I found out that I was in the process of losing my baby. And we went through that process of the miscarriage, and I buried that experience. In fact, I can count on my hand the number of people who probably have ever known that I had a miscarriage because I felt I was selfish to talk about that pain when I already had children. So this was the first year that I think I've been free to do that. And because of just looking at the work of Miss Rebecca. And so, on the starting with that, of sharing this, I want to again invite you to this courageous conversation. And Miss Rebecca, if you're watching, you know her, but I would love the pleasure of her introducing herself in her own way and sharing about the work that she does. So, take it away.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing. I know that it can be extremely difficult the next day, years later, it doesn't matter. When people share their story, grief comes in all shapes and sizes at all times of the timeline. You just never know. So thank you for sharing. I know that that has been a difficult journey for you and what that looks like. And that's exactly why we do what we do, because we meet people that have not ever talked about it, the sweeping it under the rug, because we have things that we have to do, we have to move on. And that's some things that we can talk about throughout this conversation. But for myself, I'm Rebecca Probst, and my husband is Michael. We have a son, a biological son, Merritt, who just turned 10 today. Today's his birthday. And then we have Molly. She is 6, and she turned 6 on Friday. Tomorrow is my birthday. It's really wild how we're
Yeah.
back to back to back, but it's fun. So we are celebrating around here. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn how to discuss that I have 2 children on earth and 1 child in heaven, and what that looks like. How do I talk about that? How do I answer those questions? Um, but there's a lot of different things that have come about. It's been 8 years for us. We lost our daughter Marley in 2014, and Molly actually came to us through adoption. And so it has been the wildest ride. I always joke, we sound like a TV show by the time we get done with what all we've been through and
Mm-hmm.
experienced. But our loss was so traumatic in the sense that we were not here. We were not in Jonesboro, and we were not with our doctors. We were not with our nurses. No one around me was in my normal group of people. We were gone out of town in Branson. We were actually at a cheer competition because we did children's athletics, and we were gone to a competition. My water broke, and I just thought, okay, well, we're going to be in the NICU for a very long time. With her, Merritt was
Mm-hmm.
also born early, and not that early, but he was fairly early. And so I just thought, we're just going to have to deal with the same things,
Mm-hmm.
lack of this being formed or that being formed, but that's our experience. It was you go to the NICU and you get better and you go home. That was not the case. But we actually were transported to Springfield, Missouri, after delivering in Branson. And I thought it was just a typical, okay, whoopsie surgery that I had to have. There were some complications going on, and I woke up to a full hysterectomy. And I was 28 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and that was not something that I thought was even in the cards. I had no idea. That was nowhere in what we were going to do that day. And she was in Branson. We were in Springfield. And so just the distance in itself was very traumatic. But once we lost her, and then this hysterectomy came about, it was a
Mm-hmm.
double dose of grief.
Mm-hmm.
Losing
Mm-hmm.
her and trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure out how to navigate those waters, and then to turn around and lose everything as what I felt like as a female, because we held tight to, okay, we're gonna try again,
Yeah.
and as bad as this is, that was what I could cling to in that moment where I did not just lose my entire mind. And then once the hysterectomy happened, it was like, okay, in my head, my life was just over. I mean, that's what you do. You get married, and from age
Yeah.
young,
Yeah.
you get
Mm-hmm.
married, you want to have babies, and so in my head, things had just ended, and my life was just so shattered in that moment, and how and why, and all those things. And so luckily, God has a plan for everybody. Myself, it's hard to see it
Mm-hmm.
in that moment. And
Mm-hmm.
what that looks like in those moments is just tragedy. And you can't see past that. You're mad, you're hurt, you're shocked, and then we have to go to work eventually. For us, we had Merit at home that needed to be tended to, and so you figure out how to cope, and not in the best of ways. And so, how Impact got started, the idea behind it is, while we were in Branson, we had no support. And when I say no support, we had friends that were calling, we had family that had come up to
Mm-hmm.
see her and things like that. But as far as long term care, who to talk to when everybody else goes away, that's really what we are here for. And once you get a house full of people, you get home from the hospital, people are
Mm-hmm.
bringing meals, people are
Mm-hmm.
texting, showing up. What do you need? What do you need? But after that settles and it's quiet, and now we have to really
Mm-hmm.
deal with what just happened. That's whenever we, as Impact, our team steps in and says, okay, now what do you need? The fog has kind of cleared a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, things get so quiet. Um, that's where the struggle really comes from. And so that's why we want to do what we do, is to make sure, first and foremost, that you know you are not alone. You're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And, kind of jumping off of what you said on sharing this story because you have a child at home or children at home. I kind of went through that too a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
have Merit at home, and how selfish is it that I'm sitting here grieving when I do have a child? I have a biological child. Um, but for anybody that has had this loss, that all goes away. The happiness of what you have goes away. And as bad as that is, and it
Yeah.
seems,
Yeah.
how do we navigate that? How do we get through that? We still have happiness at our home, but we all know grief is really
Yeah.
tricky, and it's hard. It's hard to go, our life is so great, when it's not in that
Yeah.
moment.
So let me back up to just that experience. Uh, you've utilized this pain of that moment to help other people through local impact, a phenomenal nonprofit, you all, that walks other women through this. But in your own moment, what can you remember about, especially as a woman of God.
Mhm.
And you know how things can happen in life to where we start to maybe take some blame or start to try to revisit some of our actions. Did I
Mhm.
say something? Did I eat right? Did
Mhm.
what's going on with my family? Where, it's my home not stable for this child to be in, like all these thoughts, right? That
Mhm.
you just start internalizing. Or even, and I know it's Sunday, but again, it's real having these raw conversations to where not only are we angry, but then who do we direct our anger to? Do we get mad at God? Like, just how did you feel
Mhm.
those first few hours, right? Like,
Yeah. Luckily, I say luckily now, it was not, I didn't feel that way in the beginning, but I was in the hospital for a long time. There was a
mhm,
lot of stuff going on, and so I think that that was God's way of protecting me. Even though I did not
mhm,
feel that way in that moment, you definitely go directly to the why me? Why
mhm,
did this happen to
mhm,
me? Why did you take every chance that I could even have another baby from me?
mm,
Just total
mhm,
punishment.
mhm,
In that
mhm,
moment, I felt like total punishment. But I think being in the hospital for so long during that time, it gave me time to be away from everybody and everything. Being out of town, as bad as it was, I think it did protect me from a lot of things that I did have to sit in my own grief, in my own out by myself, and no visitors and things like that. People couldn't just come and go. And so
yeah,
I
yeah,
think it did kind of give me that moment to process. But yes, the answer for me was anger. Yes. The why me? What did I do? Yes. Replaying the why did I um, do this? Why did I do that? I was traveling. Should I have not been traveling? I was sick the
mhm,
entire trip. Um, there's some there's some people that were in the vehicle with me on that road trip,
mhm,
and it was not pleasant. I was sick
mhm,
the entire time. And so, you do question, should I have come on this? What did I do? Kids tumbling, and, you wake up early and you get home late. We had a really wonky schedule because of the line of work that we did. Yes. And at the end of the day, and I did not believe this then. So, as hard as it is in that moment, but coming out of the fog, I've worked now in the hospital setting where I can see some of this stuff a lot more. But there is absolutely nothing that myself, you, anybody that's experiencing this, we
mhm,
just don't have that power. There is nothing that
mhm,
we could have
mhm,
done to do this. I mean, we're healthy people. We
mhm,
ate right, we
mhm,
drink water, we do all this
mhm,
stuff.
mhm,
Um, but it's just the mom. It's the mom inside of us that carrying this baby, we go into mom mode of what we could have done. The
yeah,
answer is nothing, but it takes a long time to process that and to understand that and truly believe that.
mhm,
And
mhm,
people fight that
yeah,
for years, years.
yeah,
I couldn't even have had this conversation 5 years ago,
mhm,
because I
mhm,
was still playing the guilt card on myself,
mhm,
and
mhm,
being mad. And yes, I mean, we're Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night people going to church, and that stopped for me. I and it
mhm,
wasn't that it wasn't that I stopped being a believer. It
yeah,
was
yeah,
just I was angry. I
yeah,
did not want to go and sing because I'm going to cry the whole time. I didn't want to hug these
mhm,
people because their hugs are not. It just came with so much emotion.
mhm,
I know why they're hugging me. I know why they're saying hi.
yeah, yeah,
And it's so great, and I'm so thankful for those people, but I couldn't do it. So it was Easter Sunday. We lost her in November, actually on Thanksgiving Day. Um, so Thanksgiving, every year it's just
mm,
hard,
mhm,
but
mhm, mhm,
Thanksgiving Day all the way to Easter. I did not show my face in church.
Mhm.
And I never stopped praying. I never stopped having those moments with God and just asking and begging and pleading, like, show me what is next.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It is very hard.
Yeah. How
So,
did how did you handle that in your marriage? Children changes the dynamics, period, right? Of,
yes.
your entire just your entire existence. For
Yes.
for great, for sure, but it's a journey.
Hmm.
But we also know just in the trials of life that it can cause deep friction and just some turmoil internally. And then now you add this on with grief because I don't think we do. And even as society and even as mothers, sometimes that we kind of leave out.
Hmm.
I think the heart burden of the fathers. And so with you and your marriage, how was that first year, the first time, or even in that internal season that you all had of just not going out? How was that with your marriage?
It is very challenging. And one of the things, and it's not, it wasn't me, it wasn't Michael, it wasn't necessarily our marriage. It's just the
Mm,
grief that comes that is
mhm,
so
mm,
different for a man and a
mm,
woman, and
mhm.
trying to be on the same page, but that doesn't exist. There's not a
Mm,
same page that you can say,
yeah,
okay, we're going to do it this way, because there's no right or wrong way to
yeah.
do it. And until you experience it and you're going through it, you don't know what to do. But I had a dear friend, and she's now on our board. Um, she was one of the first people that I talked to on the phone. And I said, I am stuck. I am stuck. I'm sitting here on this couch. I own a business and I'm not going. I have a child at home that I'm not functioning around. I have to do something. And so through this whole conversation with her, I don't really remember any of the conversation other than she said, protect your marriage. And
Oh,
you
yeah,
know, at the
yeah.
time, um, it's just you don't know what that means.
Mhm,
You don't
mhm,
know that
mhm,
there are going to be these hardships.
mhm.
We were in the middle of trying to sell our home. I did not. There was no. I was not going back to that house. Um, so we had to sell
Mhm,
our home quickly, and as mad as I was, and talking about God and things like that, he was protecting me every step of the
mm,
way.
mhm,
And looking
mhm.
back, I'm like, we think our lives are just so turned upside down sometimes, but he is working. He is working every day,
Yeah.
just on everything. And so our house sold in 7 days, and
Wow.
I never went back there, and
Okay,
that was a
okay.
blessing. And so
Yeah,
marriage,
yeah.
moving and selling and buying, that's a whole nother stressor. But I was not going back.
Mhm.
um
May I ask you, and not
mhm,
to, but I do want to just because we've talked and everything,
mhm.
but even with that, the moving, was that um just something that you feel like you had to do because in this home you were building for at the time the
Yes.
four of you, right? And so is it that you just couldn't go back and you needed a freedom that was maybe something that could manifest a freedom of you moving forward? Like, would you explain that?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's
Seeing.
big. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And that is, some people, when they experience this, they want to keep everything. They want to leave it as is,
Mm,
because um, it gives them that comfort that,
mhm, mhm.
even though the loss exists, we are dealing with it when your body, after you have a baby, you are, even though you're not bringing your baby home, your body is still doing exactly the same
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
And so
Mm,
everything hit me at one time. Your milk comes in,
mm,
everything
mhm,
is still the
mhm,
same, but there's no
mhm,
baby. And so it's kind of
mhm.
like having your nursery at home? Do you want
Yeah.
to keep it, or do you want to make it disappear? Can you go back in there? I have worked with families that go in there and they sit and they look and they see and they feel, that they think they feel that child's presence just sitting in there. And some people like myself, um, it was a no-no for me. I couldn't deal. It was not something that I was
Mhm.
already experiencing the things in my body physically, but
Yeah.
emotionally I had to cut it off. um
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
one of those people, and
Mm.
this does not work well, and that's why I'm always the one to say you can sweep it under the rug, but it will resurface. It will.
Mm.
100% it will
Yeah.
resurface. And
Yeah.
so I'm I'm not a crier, and I'm like the tough person. I want to lead. I just want to do these things. And so I felt like in my heart that being in a different home was a fresh start, to
Mm.
kind of sort of delete some of that stuff, for my mental health. But yes, I'm a big, all right, I didn't do it well. I swept it under the rug. And so people always say, how did you do this? How did you grieve? And I say, I didn't. The answer is
Mhm.
I didn't. And that is
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
okay. It's
Mhm.
not it's
Mhm.
not helpful at all.
Mhm.
But for me in that moment, going home to that particular house that I have created, um this new person that was going to be there, a sister for her brother. I mean, how was Merritt going to see this stuff?
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
closet or a this or that. And so it's kind of
Mm.
based on whatever that your emotions can handle. If you can go back home, if you can see it, if you want to use this stuff again. For some,
Yeah. That's
that for
big.
me,
Yes.
as the hysterectomy was like done, period, at the end of the sentence,
Mhm.
sealed the deal. I didn't need anything. I didn't want anything. And in my head, there was no more. So, but for other people,
Mhm.
that can
Mhm.
have another baby, or that want to have another baby, or that, for me, I had no idea my road was going to lead to adoption. Praise the Lord for that. But at the time, you're mad.
Yeah.
So I said, we're going to delete that part. Um, but a lot of people like to use the same crib and the same bedding and the closet full of clothes. If they lost a son and they're now pregnant again with their rainbow baby that's a boy, some people want to save that stuff. So it just
Mhm.
depends on your own,
Mhm.
how you're grieving. And but as far as I know, we were talking about marriage, and she said protect your marriage. It's
Yeah.
simply for the fact that you are upset at different times than your husband. You know,
Ooh, that's
your
good. Yeah,
husband,
that's good.
if he has to go to work
Yeah, that's good.
and we got to save face all day and smile and nod and go through the motions, when he comes home, he might have to let some of that emotion out. Well, if
Yeah.
I've been at home all day letting my emotion out and now I want to turn it off, it's simply that, um, when I want to turn it off, he needs to turn it on, or vice
Mm.
versa. And talking about it. When we go out we've now bought a new home and we're at a furniture store, and the man says, how many children do you have? Because we have our son with us. And I say two, and he says one. It's like,
Oh,
well, hold
wow.
on. And so then that becomes
Yeah.
why did you say that? And
Mm.
then I question myself, well, what was he supposed to say, or
Yeah.
whatever?
That's
So
a
things
beautiful, yeah. No, that's a beautiful actual segue into just one of the questions we were discussing. And let me reset this for people that are just watching. I am joined with Rebecca Prost, and she is the founder of Local Impact, M leading the way because of a beautiful child in heaven and the work that she wants to do and that she is doing, not wants to do, that
Mhm.
she is doing, walking with families who have lost their babies. And when I say walk with you, she is literally doing the work physically, emotionally, and has turned her story into purpose. And we are discussing this journey, and she's definitely bringing up some of those things that, again, I didn't even reconcile with myself, to think like, oh, yeah, 3, 4 days. And after your baby has transitioned, and yeah, your milk comes in, what, just all these things that, again, we're not having enough conversations on. But Rebecca's leading the charge, and her wonderful team and board and nonprofit, and her husband as well, doing that work. And so I wanted to also ensure that people know where to, it's local impact, capital MPACT. Please
Mhm.
go like and follow. And also, she's a nonprofit 501(c)(3) organization. You can also support this cause. But segueing into, um, so I think you helped me with this, actually, and your son. Will you share? Let me do it like this. Will
Yeah.
you share the story of how you came to this freedom of reconciling how to state how many children you have?
Yes. So that lingered, that problem lingered for a really long time, giving her the life that she deserved. And this is for me to reiterate over and over and over again that whether you're 8 weeks, 40 weeks, 3 month old baby that we have brought home, no matter what that looks like, you are a mother. You
Mm-hmm.
had a
Hmm.
child. And it just, as soon as we get our pregnancy test and it's positive, that's it. That's
Yeah,
it. We're
you're right.
excited. We start celebrating.
Full force
Um,
ahead. Yes.
Yes. So just like you stated earlier, that I have a child at home. How could I say this? How can I talk about this? But my son, who at the time was in the first grade, and it was so crazy because I could not figure out how to answer that question. How many children do you have? Well, at the time, I had one that you could see. So it
Mhm.
was hard for me to say two. And anyway, we went back and forth, and we were at Hobby Lobby. Merritt had a painting that he had done at school for his sister. Now, fast forward, and we had Molly, who we had adopted, and it was the neatest thing because the guy, we took the painting to Hobby Lobby. We were going to get it framed, and the guy obviously knew it was not for him. It was a pink, full of pink ballerina, all the paint. And he said, "Who is this for?" And he said, "That's for my sister." And he said, "Well, you have a sister?" And he was like, "Well, I have two sisters." He corrected him. And I'm like holding my breath, like, oh my gosh. Both of my kids are extremely vocal. You never know what's going to come out of their mouth. And so he said, "Well, I have two sisters." And he said, "Oh, you do?" And he said, "Yes, I have one on earth and one in heaven." And so I about lost it right there in Hobby Lobby
Yeah.
because it was the sentence that I needed, that I had longed for
Mhm.
so long. I'm like, straight from the
Mhm.
mouth of babes.
Yes.
He was able to create some
Yeah.
clarity for me that I was not able to get otherwise. And so now it's beautiful. And the
Yeah.
more people that I work with, and I share that story with them, because it is true. There are more, there's just more to life than hiding this and not talking about it. And whenever someone loses a child and they're 5 or they're 15, they don't stop talking about them. We
Right.
celebrate them. They
Right.
have birthdays and things like that. And so age, gestation, no matter what, it doesn't mean that we can't talk about them just because we can't physically
Mhm.
see them.
Mhm.
There's
Mhm.
a ton of
Mhm.
people, sadly, and it's unfortunate, that have lost children. and we talk about them. And it's a blessing. And people say,
Mhm.
here's the crazy thing that, I have experienced this myself on how do we be around people that are pregnant, having babies, sharing in with this excitement.
Mhm.
There were babies all around me right after we lost
Yes.
Marley,
Yes.
pregnancies. But, I had to realize that she's pregnant and she talks about her baby. I was pregnant, so I can talk about mine. And once I understood that
Mhm.
it is
Mhm.
okay, and
Mhm.
if
Mhm.
someone else is uncomfortable around me, that is not my problem.
Right.
And so it's not to be, like we said, swept under the rug. It's
Yeah.
not to be
Yeah.
a hidden topic. I want to celebrate your baby just like you can celebrate mine.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
yes, it does make things a little bit awkward, for people. I've experienced myself, some awkwardness on, do they want to talk about it? Do they not want to talk about it? And not everybody can, not everybody's
True.
willing to.
That's true. Yeah.
But if they bring it up, or if the other person is talking about their child, it is okay. It is okay. This is me giving permission. It is okay to say, yes, okay, for instance, Marley had toes that looked just like her daddy. Okay, true story. It was the craziest thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we talk about that. His toes are really long and her toes were
Mhm.
really long. And having those conversations and putting that into play is okay. And if, like I said, if it is makes people uncomfortable, then they just don't get it.
Yeah.
But the truth is, once you say it and once you put it out there, it helps those people to understand and to be comfortable and to
Mhm.
say, okay, she didn't care to
Mhm.
talk about it, so I can
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah. And honestly, sometimes people just don't know what they don't know. Or I also, I think I found it more too that people, they're really trying to do the best to not hurt you,
Yes,
and to be
yes.
respectful,
Mhm.
um, and just to don't, I think they maybe avoid all conversation just to not have the instance to where they think they're saying something, right, that could
Yeah.
be offensive or anything. But I'm glad that you basically have freed, and if you're that woman to, and I love how you actually broke it down to where no matter the age outside of the womb or the gestational period inside the womb, you are absolutely right. We adore, and if there's something in our brains, in our hearts, in our whole body, literally, not only physically, but emotionally, mentally, that shifts when we find out that we're pregnant. I mean,
Mhm.
it's instantaneous. You can't even describe. I think it moves faster than the speed of light. Like
Yes.
seriously, our whole world shifts, and you are right. We begin these conversations, we begin moving our actions, exercise, we shift everything in the moment. And for people that are watching, like I literally know women that are watching now, who reached out to me, even when we were talking about miscarriage, and wanting to know, like, do I still identify as a mother? And
Mhm.
what is a mother? The person that cares for you, that loves you, and that care is beyond the physical. And that's
Mhm.
what we instantly do, to where our whole world shifts, and we do everything that we can to protect ourselves because we want that same protection for our baby.
Yes.
Um, and so I just thank you for that freedom. And again, for those who are just tuning in now, and I shared that for years, I think I know that I hid the pain, or even talked about how many children that you have, that we have. Just I've wrestled with that in my own mind, and that leads to the next question of why where has this stigma come from that we don't talk about miscarriages,
Mhm.
that we don't consider them our babies, that they can't be part of the number? Um, where, as women, have we allowed that conversation to get away from us?
Yeah, so my this is totally my opinion, but I think it's to protect others. We focus so much
Mm,
on
mhm,
what someone else will think, what someone else will say, what that looks like, and your friend might be pregnant, and so how do you talk about the loss
mm,
whenever you don't want it to be this huge black cloud over pregnancy?
mm,
Because yes,
mhm,
it happens, it does. It doesn't always happen, thankfully, but through Impact, we are trying to make these babies a celebration. We want our
mm,
program and our organization to be a happy, fun, loving, family oriented organization. Whereas if you have experienced this loss, let's talk about that. Or you know what? If you don't want to talk about that, we don't have to do that either. We can go to lunch and just love on each other and feel better when we leave because we know what we're dealing with. But
yeah,
to protect others, I think, is the answer that so many people just want to protect the other women that are pregnant, and it makes perfect sense. It does.
mm,
But
mhm,
that's why Impact has created
mhm,
this happiness, because we want people to know that we want to celebrate your pregnancy no matter what.
yeah,
If it is a successful pregnancy, we're going to celebrate that. If it is a pregnancy that doesn't make it all the way or something just tragic happens, we're going to celebrate that life too.
mhm,
But whatever that looks like, we want to be the loving, family oriented folks that can help you no matter what. Um, the stigma is so strong around this. I think it has gotten better over time, but I would never, now it took some time for me to get this way, but I would never want someone to feel uncomfortable talking about this or being around this line of work, things like that, because talking about her, saying her name,
mm,
realizing that it's her birthday, that is what
mm,
makes us feel good. You
yeah,
know, it
yeah,
not to sweep it under the rug and to not talk about it and have these stigmas, um, that is not healthy for the grieving people. And so we want to be able to say their name. We want our friends to be able to say their name, and it's okay. And so I think through education and utilizing
yeah,
our resources through
mhm,
Impact, it gives us that moment, to say, guys, it is a wonderful thing when it's talked about. It is
mhm,
a wonderful thing for you to say her name or his name,
yeah,
whatever the way that looks like. And, send a card in the mail that says, happy birthday, or send some flowers or whatever to
mhm,
acknowledge
mhm,
that birth. Because, I have a 10-year-old today, right? And I had a 6-year old that just turned 6. And so we have parties and we do. Um, Obviously we're just not in these extravagant ways, because they are not here with us, but we do still want to take that time. So for example, at Christmas, what we do, and again, education and trying to make these stigmas go
yeah,
away, but every year at Christmas we gather gifts in our home. And every year so last year she would have been 8, and so we take 8-year-old girl gifts, to a foster family that
that's
has an 8-year-old girl.
beautiful.
And so
Yeah,
we're able to still celebrate her. We know what
yeah,
we're doing.
yeah, that's
8-year-old
beautiful.
girl this year, 9-year-old, right? And we'll gather all these gifts. We'll take them to these foster, homes, and that's where my heart is.
Yeah,
Again, through this journey, we had no idea where it was going to lead, through foster care, adoption. I am so into that world now. And
um,
gosh, it has just made me a totally different person. My eyes are wide open to things and families and what they need and what these children are going through. You
Yeah.
know, when we're
Mhm.
talking about pregnancy, 8 weeks, 40 weeks, 3-month-old baby, you know, I didn't birth Molly, but I am very much her mother. And so,
Mhm.
even though they're two totally different things, a loss does not undefine you as a mother. You're
Yeah.
still a
Totally.
mother.
Yes.
Just because Molly did not grow in my belly does not make me, not her
Mhm.
mother.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
you
so,
wasn't trying to replace Marley either, because I
yeah,
think that should be touched on as well, that moving forward,
hmm,
in your journey of adoption, because
hmm,
again, it's stigma, it's I think a lot of misnomers and not having the awareness and education that it's not even a replacement either, because you cannot, right? It's like all of our children, but that you again decided to say, hey, I'll move forward in my mothering journey.
yeah.
Um, and um, Molly is absolutely gorgeous.
She says we're twins.
She is gorgeous. No, she is gorgeous. And so I just wanted to say that as well, that, you can't, um, it's not like a replacement or anything. But you're just a beautiful testament of but I'm called to mother in this capacity
Yes,
as well. And so
yes,
I
yes.
just want to just commend you on that.
Yeah. Well, and even before Molly, we laugh. We're like, stork dropped her right at our doorstep. We have a picture of her in a basket on our doorstep, and it's beautiful. And Merritt's standing there smiling, big as can be. But it we actually had opportunities to adopt prior to that, and
Okay.
I was not ready. And
Mm,
that's another thing too, that if anybody's out there watching or watches this later on, that you might not want to go through that again or risk that or get pregnant,
yeah.
whatever that looks like on your journey. But I'm very much a testament to say that you have to be ready before you can do anything. But yes, there was ample opportunity for us to adopt, and one actually fell right into our lap, and it was not time. And I knew it wasn't time, but yeah, there is no replacement. Your mind is
Mhm,
it's very straightforward.
mhm,
When things
mhm,
start happening, there is a good time, there's a right time and there's a wrong time. And there was a lot of wrong times, and it was because I was not emotionally ready. I
mhm.
love, I love, love, love being a foster mom. We have had 18 kids in our home of all ages, and it is the most beautiful
Wow.
thing. That is, I wish everyone would do it at least once. But that's a beautiful thing, and it's just being faithful to God, what
Mm,
God is calling you to do. And even with Molly, we knew at that point we definitely wanted Merritt to have a sibling. And it was at a time where we were ready. I knew I was ready. I think one of the questions we had talked about was, um, how does, if grief ends, or if,
mhm,
what
mhm,
happens on
mhm,
this grief journey? And it
mhm.
absolutely does not end. Um, it does get better, it gets
Yeah.
easier,
Mhm,
but it's a new way of living. It is taking something that is so traumatic, no matter what it is. I mean, the loss of your grandmother, it doesn't matter what it is.
mhm,
Taking that and turning it into something good. And our whole board of people that we have come into contact with that are like family to us now, that don't even, they play no part in like the backside of the organization necessarily. They're just a family that loves us and we love them.
yeah.
But yes, it's learning a new way of life and how to take that grief and turn it into something good, whether it is volunteering at your church in the children's department, or for us it was
Mhm,
to foster. I never ever knew, I didn't know a thing about foster care,
mhm,
nothing.
mhm,
um,
mhm.
And how awesome is it that we are able to experience that, whereas before we I don't know that we would have been in
Mm,
that world. I don't know that that would
mhm,
have popped up in our life,
mhm,
but
mhm.
it has been the biggest blessing. If we could adopt 15 times, we probably would. Molly has been everything to us, our family, to Merritt. They are like two peas in a pod. They love each other. It's just the craziest thing to see. But we were in the delivery room when she was born, and coming off of a loss, what does that look like being in a delivery
Yeah,
room that you're not the one
yeah,
delivering?
yeah.
But it surprisingly was the best thing ever. I was so focused on her birth mom and the actual delivery and what she looked like and how much hair she had and all of that.
Mhm.
The grief disappeared in that moment.
Oh, wow.
Um, and it's such a special thing. And so, no, grief doesn't end. It doesn't. We just find ways to deal with it, and to move forward. And that's really what's in our logo too. Is there is a line, and it goes upward, and there's a lot of things relating to a bridge, and how do we get from one side of the bridge to the other? Even though we're on the other side, it's not a dead end road. We don't get there and stop. So we cross the
Yeah,
bridge,
that's
and the line
good.
in our logo goes up.
That's good.
And I was talking to a family the other day, and when we're in beach season, we're the summer, and so when you go to the beach, when you go out, your feet hit the sand, we look at the flag, right? If it's yellow or if it's red or
Mm,
whatever the
mhm,
flag is before we get in the
mhm,
water.
mhm.
And that's kind of how grief is.
That's
You
good.
have to look at the flag before
Yeah, that's
you tread in these
good.
waters. And so for us, on this timeline on where we're at, like, can we go to the grocery store today? Or is that a burden? If it's a
Mm,
burden, you don't go. We'll
that's
try again
good.
tomorrow. But it's very much one day at a time.
That's so
One day at a
good.
time. If you get out of bed today, great. If you don't, we're going to try again tomorrow.
Mm,
And that's just really, but that's what I always have to think about is going out to the ocean and seeing what that flag is to know what is our day going to look like. And if it's a yellow flag, hey, we're wide open for the day, right? Like our emotions are good, we're feeling
yeah,
good, we're
yeah,
going to conquer the world. If it's a red flag, we
yeah.
might run to the drive through, we're going to get out of the house, or we might sit on the porch today. The sun might hit our face, and that may be all we accomplish
And it's
today, and
okay.
that's okay too.
I think, it's the freedom uh that is often the disconnect, that the the road to, or just know that you have those markers. It's kind of like even traveling, right? That there is
Mhm.
markers that we need to slow down or stop or take a U-turn, and that is this journey. Um, and suppressing it, it's much worse to you.
Mhm.
And if you are the woman that's watching this and was like me, who cried in the closet for years every time, I remember,
Mhm.
and I know my husband is watching too. I remember every October, just I remember the date. I would go in the closet and cry, and I would cry to myself. I didn't even share with anyone because, again, I've had other children. I didn't think I deserved those tears.
Mhm.
Because you start rationalizing that, man, there are other women who would just love to have as many kids that you have.
Mhm.
And, or you're being unappreciative of the ones that you have. I mean, and sometimes even certain things of reminders, right? And so I would go and just have me a cry to my husband, just like, we lost a baby too, right? It was a we.
Mhm.
And so I'm just encouraging you all that there are people, myself, Rebecca, there are people that will uh, hold your hand or be on the phone with you, that you need to release it. And we know scientifically to keep in tears and cries is actually putting poison back into our bodies. That when you
Mhm.
have the urge to cry, to release, please do.
Mhm.
I mean, literally for your own health, you
Yeah.
have to get it out. But
Mhm.
I just wanted to share that. May I ask you something as we wrap up? To make it practical, how long did you have Marley before she transitioned?
2 days.
2 days.
Mhm.
Yeah. And in that in that time, I know you told us about her long feet.
Mhm.
What else can you remember about your baby girl?
Well, her nose.
Mhm.
Her nose, yeah, she mostly her nose and her toes. We were very, very grateful for the nurses that had her, that worked with her. We have footprints, we have handprints, we have things like that
Mm,
that we
mhm,
have in our home, and that kind of brings me to another thought that people always want things in their home, and they may walk away from the hospital with absolutely nothing, or they may walk away with a lot of stuff. And so,
mm,
if that is you and you walked away with nothing, please get in contact with us. It doesn't matter if it was 10 years ago. There are tangible things that you can have
mm,
in your home to celebrate that birth. And so for
mhm,
me, I'm so glad that the things that I remember from that day, I have pictures. I have
mhm,
these footprints, they're in a frame. Um, so when we were at the cemetery, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is the most morbid picture that has ever existed. But Merritt was in the cemetery and he was holding some pink and purple balloons, but there were headstones all in the background. Okay. So I loved the picture
mhm,
of him and the balloons, but I hated the scenery. I thought it was so bad. And so I had sent it to a very dear friend of mine. She is a professional photographer and does a wonderful job. She's way more creative than I am. And
mhm.
I just sent it to her and I said, how do you make this pretty? Like, this is so bad, but I
Yeah.
love this picture. And it is him and the balloons. And that's about it. It has the clouds in the sky and all the headstones are removed. There's grass. It's
Mhm.
beautiful. And so it's blown up. It's in my home. And I know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
There is a huge butterfly painting that is beautiful that's in my home. So there's so much that I still get to cling to from that
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Everything that I love from that day, I still have things, and and sometimes I look at her pictures, and then other times I don't. I don't look at all. It
Yeah.
can be
Yeah.
once a year, it could be once a month. Um, what
Yeah.
that looks like. And two, Merritt was not able to come to the hospital. And now I don't know that I would have wanted him to.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
I think that distance helped me make the right
mhm,
decisions for
mhm,
us and our family, because
mhm,
he couldn't come. And now
mhm,
I'm thankful he was not there. But that poses questions now in the present time that,
mm,
what did she look like or things like that. And about a year ago, he asked to see her. And I really wasn't sure how that was going to go. How do I answer? Is it a yes or is it a no? And I said, are you sure you want to see her? And he's like, yes. And he was so excited.
mm,
And so we did. We went through that whole thing. We looked
mm,
at pictures. And you can very much see her in those pictures. And he was so excited.
mm.
He was so just relieved, like
Yeah.
he could
Yeah.
put a face to the
Yeah. He could
name.
put a face. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
as hard as that was for me, because that was not an easy moment, sure. It
Yeah.
was very hard, but yeah, he loved it. He thought it was great, and he started to talk about her and some of her features. And so
Mm,
it was a nice thing. And so there's a lot of things we remember from that day that are
mm,
also sitting in our home that not the average person coming in would know what it was, but we do. And I'm blessed by that, that we had
mm.
that stuff. So,
Awesome. I um I want to end with the last question that I ask everyone.
mhm,
But on here, we're talking about the village. And again, if you are, because I've had women like even emailed me, I need you all to connect with Rebecca. I will certainly love to talk with you because I'm just at a freer place now. Rebecca has truly, with local impact, capital M, has truly taken this as a purpose. And this is her ministry. And this is what her and her husband, they get to do this work and the great people that surround them all of the time with you in mind of just sharing and walking through. And I'm talking about just the stories that she has that literally she is the person that if you know women, um, or now that you know what she does, she's the one that you can call. We don't even think about the little things of going to the car and you see in the car seat in the back seat. She will
mhm,
be there with you to get those items out, to unpack the baby bags, just so that you can just, even in these most traumatic moments, not have to keep having these reminders because you're going to have them. I mean, she is walking right there with you, but this all stems from her very own pain. And so I am just, I just, again, I'm a fan and I just want to keep sharing that because I always call my babies TC4S. And in my mind, and I told Rebecca, I would say TC4S and then my other baby. But now I just happily say it's TC4S plus. I know if you don't know, I have 5 children. All the girls' name starts with T. Baby boy is an S, and so you'll get it. Just TC4S. And then now there's a plus sign to acknowledge that I do have one in heaven. And Rebecca helped me with that conversation.
mhm.
Um, and then I want to give the flowers to one of my best friends that's on here who did not know that I would do this. And so she's probably going to kick my butt. But the person that walked through that season with me, because I didn't tell anyone, but she was literally right there to cover my kids on the spot. I call her Coco, but Aaron's to go. And I just want to say thank you, sis. Just thank you for walking through that space, with me. And I'm just so grateful to now have these conversations. Um, And I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing, Rebecca. I really am. And it doesn't matter the number of years, um, that there are moments. We all have those moments. And so embrace those moments when you have them. And so I end this and I always ask, what's your courageous conversation for action that you will continue to do in this purpose? You are already doing it. But if there is anything that you want to add, that how you will continue to be courageous in elevating this conversation, the work that you do, um, please take this moment and share with us.
Yeah, just bouncing off of the car seat situation, people don't know what they need in this time.
Mm,
Um,
mhm, mhm,
when you experience this loss, you're in the hospital, your whole life is just upside down. People are losing a baby on their first pregnancy, the very first pregnancy, full term
mhm,
babies. And, you know, they're, they have no idea. They don't know what to ask. They don't know what happens next. They don't know what 6 months from now looks like. And so, what we are on a mission to do, whenever you find out who we are, who I am, a friend of a friend, or a Facebook message, tag on, somebody tags me, whatever. Um, Depending on the timeline, you don't know. You genuinely, I did not know what I
mhm,
needed. If somebody says, how can I help, or what can I do, or whatever, there is no answers. And so, as a friend, just some advice is not to say, um, let me know if you need anything,
Mm,
or what can I do to help? Because one, they don't know. That they genuinely don't know. And the silence, or the I'm okay, I'm good for now, probably not true.
right.
Probably not true that they are
Mhm.
doing okay. They're probably not. But it's the easiest way to answer that question, because they genuinely don't know what they need. And
Mhm.
so, showing up, and a lot of people going through this, they don't want to talk. They don't want to talk. They don't
Yeah.
want a bunch of people in their home, things like that. And so, if we show up with a meal, or if a friend shows up with a meal, it
Mhm.
is a drop and run. It
Yeah.
is to respect that they may not want to talk about it one more time.
Mhm.
Or if they're having a really good day that day, they may not want to start all over again. And so, what we do as our mission is to make sure that we meet those people with what they need when they need it.
That's
And
good.
that's not usually straight from the hospital. We have to get through a whole funeral process, things like
Mhm.
that. And so,
Mhm.
when that dust settles, and when people go away, family members have gone
Mhm.
back home, people are now
That's
going back to
good.
work. We're
Mhm.
not on a normal 6 week maternity leave. We have friends that
Mhm.
are pregnant. We have coworkers that are pregnant, or we have coworkers that want to give us a hug when we get back to work, and then all of a sudden we fall apart. Or we have, our boss doesn't understand, that we may need more time, or does our job allow more time? There's so
Mhm.
many obstacles.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know if you can't go back to work for 2 additional weeks, like, can you afford to do that? But it's not going to matter, because if you go to work and you're not ready to be there
Mm.
yet, how much work are you going to actually do? How productive are you
Yeah.
going to,
Yeah.
you
All the
know?
things. Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. Yeah.
So we meet you where you're at, and that may be that you need help, creating a headstone. You can afford it, the funds are there, and you can afford it, but you don't know what to put on it. And
Mm.
it's okay to wait.
Mm.
It's okay to wait. If you don't know, we hold off on that. We can discuss some things as time
Mhm.
grows. For us, it's a butterfly, and for someone else, it might be
Mm.
something different. Um, we have, just off the top of my head, I mean, I have a very dear friend, and they have a bunny rabbit, or just anything. And so, a lot of times, a headstone is a huge deal, and so we step in for that. um,
Yeah. That's
Meals to your
amazing.
doorstep. Last year, we provided lawn care service for a grieving dad. I mean, who would have thought lawn care would have been such a burden? And so, you don't know. And we a
Yeah.
lot of times will go into these people's homes, and we sit and we talk to them, and we love on them. And even though they don't really know they're telling us what they need, they
Mm.
really are, because
Mhm.
we know what to look for. We know, when they say something, we know exactly what they mean. And so we can kind of dig through those conversations and say, okay, it is a burden for him to mow the grass. Okay, super
Mm.
simple day to day task. And so we're going to go and we're going to call lawn care service, and we're going to get
That's
that
so
taken care
good.
of for him.
That's
So
so
it
good.
just depends. And I think
Mhm.
it's so wonderful. I'm the only one on the screen right now on Impact side, but this is not a one man show. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
have rallied, for us. You have now shared stories that are going to be so important for women to hear. Our board and people that head up our committees, or this or that. Um, it's just amazing to see
Mhm.
how this
Mhm.
grows, and how, people are now comfortable, to take this
Mm.
grief and say, you know what? Okay, this is awful, but I'm going to deal with it. And so
Mhm.
we just want to make
Mhm.
ourselves very much available. I get calls sometimes at 10 o'clock at night. Grief really plays on you at nighttime, when it's
Mm.
quiet,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe in the early mornings in
Good.
someone's
Yeah.
quiet time. And
Yeah.
so, I very much want to make myself available. If for some reason I'm not, there are other women that are. You yourself, like, I think that we're in a good headspace now to be able to say, hey,
Yeah.
I am more than willing to listen right now.
Yeah. Oh,
If we
yeah.
say nothing, but just sit on the phone and listen. But
Mm-hmm.
it is such an amazing thing, and I hate that we have all experienced this. But I know for my own self, there is beauty from ashes, and
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
very much true. As hard as it is to see in that moment, me with the hysterectomy and feeling like my
Mhm.
life was completely over, and I am happy and blessed, and we couldn't want for anything around here. Um,
Amen.
and, in our heart and our minds. And so we just want to make sure that all these other families that are experiencing this, that they do not for one
Mm.
second, walk this journey by themselves.
Awesome. And they're not. And that's why you are courageous. Thank you. Thank you so much. I wanted to make sure that usually I'll have Taylor on here, but I want to make sure that I put the correct spelling of local impact. That's capital M and
Hmm.
PACT. Everyone, if you do not, um, have not, excuse me, followed and are just becoming aware of local impact, again, you can see why now this is a worthy organization to support. And it's also worthy to have these conversations. And then now you know what to do. Because unfortunately, we will know women that will go through this process of both um, the loss inside the womb and outside the womb. But I think we all now have more wisdom and that we have the more awareness to how to interact. And then if we feel like it's too much for us, we know now that there is a whole team that is willing to be there and walk through this journey with those women. And even if it's something that you feel like you need to backdate, that it's been a couple of years, and you just are now needing this space of relief. And then you want to say, hey, how can I turn this pain into this celebration? Rebecca does that. She just had an event that they come together and recognize in this celebration. There is beauty. There is beauty in pain. We don't want to acknowledge it, but it really is. Post this. You heard her story, the beautiful adoption, and her the baby girl that they have now. Post my story. I've had 2 children, and I'm so grateful. God really does turn our stories, our pain into triumph, right? And the responsibility that we all have to be courageous is to go through that path and turn that pain, because God is still good.
Yeah.
He is still good through it all, if we choose to view it through those lens, and he is good. And so, Rebecca, I thank you for joining. Please tell your son happy birthday again.
Will.
Especially it's a special day, right? Tori's birthday, 13. I think they're watching downstairs, and so happy birthday, baby girl. We are so blessed. We're blessed to be your parents. If you're watching this, we are so blessed to be your parents. And I'm so blessed to have this conversation with you tonight. I do not want to prolong the time. Thank you so much. Next month, I will be back. We will be talking to fathers. And again, we're going to have the other side of the conversation about fatherhood and talk to men that being fathers while fatherless, and how we've had great men that navigate and stepped up when they didn't have the example. And so, again, I'm just grateful to be in this space. And with that, you all have an amazing night.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.